Yes, yeah, like definitely. I'm still living that with the emotion that like while in the person was while working as well as like being has to respect their own program or students like at like now more like at that point definitely the bring that it might have been that while they were all nearing their graduation, it might have been more features that might have been the person who went at the level when it comes to like the performances and all the tests and exams and everything at that never known. And like so as they were all nearing their graduation, like I'm wondering that it might have been more features that might have been about to be like that top alumni student. Nokia might have been in that situation where like he might have like been about to graduate as like the top alumni student of like never known might have been like the case. So definitely to prevent this from happening because like definitely has to be remembered is that like not just in the case of like the running over like I'm so different in like the close family like I'm so different in the case of like the running post like father as well as like just my grandpa in both both different might have been like students of like no and them both might have that passed out at like the top elements might have been like the case, you know, so that when Edgar and Pope might have joined that never or like Edgar Allan Poe might have been so keenly or confident that definitely exactly like that for the customer like grandpa like WC him too will definitely like be passing out and graduating as like the top and student of that never might have been along the lines of that extreme more confidence that Edgar and Poe might have had back then, and the biggest background to all that all conflicts of like a Toronto might have been like Morticia. Supplement because like all throughout like I don't know something like all throughout like the and course like journey through that now as like a student that then like undergoing each and every single test as well as exam for exam or like performance like no more like not to might maintain that consistency of like performing the best and that way that and the also might have always came in at like second place might have been like the case but you know so like that way that the towards like they were all reaching that nearing their graduation like at the Olympic might have gotten the spread and definitely it might have been a strategy that the LMO and like it was like as they were like nearing their graduation by then again even that being as well as in the rainbow might have ended up in a relationship as well might have been like the case that even the impression so definitely at that point it might have been that and the LMO as well as like beings plans secret plan to like how to get like the fish expelled out of like normal and that way to like prevent official from attaining like the title, graduating by attaining like the title of like the top alumni of like never one. Like to prevent that from happening, like it might have been like definitely at the Rally Post as well as like things we might have like that together, you know, that they might have um, committed that crime and like might have like they that stacked up like stemply stacked up like for evidence against like Morticia to probably frame Morticia to get expelled and even put behind because like by then like as they were like nearing like their graduation and like as the Renabo as well as like these might have been so still frustrated with like Morticia always like perform at the Renabo that like I'm become that and the Renabo as well as that things might have been so extremely jealous and frustrated of that Morticia that like they might have wanted like to get Morticia not just expelled out of that and never know but to also get put behind the might have been like the case that you mentioned but still definitely while they might have stacked up all the positive based on things like the Morticia and ones like the that way like the chef back then who might have definitely not been killed and certainly not the so the chef back then might have been like that other person who's like currently like the mayor of that Jericho like as in basically and that's bring like it, you know like he might have been that guy who might have been like the chef back then so who might have so like they might have fallen for like all those like sort of evidence and basically they might have totally been about to like Norwegia when exactly Gomez might have as like the culprit behind this crimes when exactly not Gomez might have so sort of to like the scene as like that absolute savior and might have lied absolutely lied and might have told that the sheriff that like it was like Gomez that actually did it. It's like the culprit will be along the lines and the people like Gomez might have absolutely lied solely to like the and Motisha and say Motisha might have been at the race and this might be how like was like accusation of like this like crime against like Gomez like happened and like certainly once like Gomez might have been released at like the court like in the different like certainly like the false evidence and government like statements that maybe like might have had that whole mismatch state of claim which friend that then might have been uh, might have not been sent to that person. Government might have been free. The court might have not punished from might have been what might have happened to the of brain. Yet like that title of that just like accused like criminal that might have remained for like since that might have been what might have happened. That will might have been jury understand that actually going to that way continue the prevention like due to all that notice getting into all that situation that while close to like graduation uh, being like possibly being like the reason for like the title of like the top alumni of like Nevermore, which might have been about this like the about this might have been about to might have been planning on having it to like notice might have been instead that might have been given to that Edgar Allan Poe and that way Edgar Allan Poe might have graduated from like Nevermore with like the title holding the title of like while stealing like uh the title of that the top alumni of that Nevermore from that message. I might have been more than that and it's definitely my big game. So like definitely not very interesting right now that Edgar Allan Poe might have actually had like a twin program. Identical twin but might be like the case of Never Forever. So that the events at like 1990 might have taken place close to that the graduation of like Vince and like Vince and Edgar Allan Poe and his like twin brother as well as Netflix and all of them as well as films and all of them might have been like the situations that remember and so luckily during the like Ravens like and so different and then for the in the case of Black Edgar Allan Poe that Edgar Allan Poe might have had this like active jealousy towards like the top two students of like Nevermore during that point uh, might have been Edgar Allan Poe as well as like Monica and might have been Monica that might have been always maintaining that tad bit of a lead over Edgar Allan Poe might have been like the case with Newman that definitely Edgar Allan Poe like twin brother might have not been that good at like the test or like the performances at like Nevermore or anything might have been like the case definitely not. Yet like I'm different like while Edgar Allan Poe as well as teams might have had that with jealousy and frustration towards like Morricone might have wanted to realistically badly get rid of like Morricone and get Morricone expelled and then behind the production creation. On the other hand, like I'm different like Edgar Allan Poe like doing brother might have been totally different character and that might have even though he might not have been like performing great at left currently like you might have certainly like Morticia and like he might have had that good respect for like Morticia's like talents and everything and even while Edgar Allan Poe his brother like Edgar Allan Poe and Morticia like might have been like the top two films like academic the way that Morticia approaches like second as well as like all the extents and performances like not just performance all throughout like her journey through Nevermore might have been something unique, might have been like the ways like Natisha might have had like her own way of like doing things and originality and everything might have been like the case and the belief which that Edgar Allan Poe's like twin brother might have probably respected and like might have Edgar Allan Poe's like twin brother might have been a good great friends as well with like Natisha might have been like the case especially when Korean so say that about the promotion like Edgar Allan Poe might have been just really jealous of that Natisha outperform constantly outperforming Edgar Allan Poe might have been feeling so similar there because like I'm different even from that Edgar Allan Poe as well as like his like twin brothers like yeah and then since like they had joined Nevermore and met Morticia and then like I'm different like without much great delay at all like I'm different like uh uh while Morticia might have not got along with like Edgar Allan Poe might have not even wanted to like get along with like Edgar Allan Poe because like Morticia might have only felt like Edgar Allan Poe as like no fight uh, but at the same time, like even from like the very beginning of like their journey through Nevermore, like Nokia might have the friendship between like the relatives like twin brother and Nokia might have been formed was definitely not great. So definitely I'm bring this friendship might have only grown from also throughout their journey through like Nevermore until that all the way up to like even nearing like their graduation. It might have been at like 99, definitely might be correct. So like Liam Gordon by then like Edgar Allan Poe might have been so extremely only self like it's in the question and created with like Edgar Allan Poe's like twin brothers that friendship with like Edgar that eventually at that point, like while they were nearing, they might have been nearing like their graduation at like 1990, like Edgar Allan Poe down with that dreams might have formulated like realistic plans totally false frame nomenclature, and basically get nomenclature expect uh, by like taking out by at the random code like taking out this like twin product might be along the lines of like that extreme villanistic plan that at the random code along with the things might have formulated that might certainly not very much directly as per lecture villanistic plan like I'm different actions that from the that might affect the building of the lecture even from like that might of lecture final surveillance that soon before like them all graduating and even not like basically to prevent that officer graduating as like top enemy like after like the plan of like gains as well as the relative while that the situation even being like there being that huge crowd in that Ravens building location and like for them to like basically execute their strategy at like a building extremely close to like the building of like the Ravens so that like once that as per their plan like once wins will be screaming at that point for like the student that like the Raven building that for all things like yeah, we meant to be rush to like the scene definitely along the lines definitely Edgar Allan Poe and James might have planned definitely was great. So definitely what might have happened might have been that Edgar Allan Poe like on that very evening that Edgar Allan Poe might have certainly asked his younger brother like twin brother to like have a duel duel with Edgar Allan Poe might have been that the case definitely was and definitely was younger brother might have agreed and the spring the twin brother of like Edgar Allan Poe might have not at all been put at duel seat might have been like the case so Edgar Allan Poe might have repeatedly told his twin brother that basically that he will train with the twin brother basically his twin brother can't graduate from that nevermore without at least like an intermediate at dual might be along the lines of the different that absolute proves such an absolute like and different company with the intent to take out like twin brother of Edgar Allan Poe and given Edgar Allan Poe and his twin brother might have had this to at a private location, maybe at the form close to New York or and the different in that absolute privacy and different they might have had that fuel might have been what might have happened to New York privacy, which and that way in while putting on that fake I think of training Edgar Allan Poe's twin brother all of them Edgar Allan Poe might have according to plan and might have stayed away during that midway during the duel between Edgar Allan Poe and twin brother Edgar Allan Poe. So might have started talking about how he was so extremely frustrated even right from the start of basically with twin brother not being Edgar Allan Poe and basically making all friendships with uh, with Nortisha and everything and about how extremely jealous Edgar Allan Poe is of Nortisha and definitely about how Edgar Allan Poe is going to get rid of Nortisha and then Edgar Allan Poe might have with a villain's smile during the duel might have told Bruce to impulse that is going to be proof in that Edgar Allan Poe is going to snake that have that real and against Nortisha and becomes the top enemy. So the along the line, Edgar Allan Poe, villain city might have might have been saying to his twin brother during the duel, and Edgar Allan Poe with the next prize might have taken out his twin brother might have been the case of the never finished. So this is perception in my personal perception, and I'm looking for the point where Edgar Allan Poe argument might have taken out his twin brother might have been midway at the Ravens of 99. All that very nice might be the case might have been the reimbursement right now because so reporting for the scenario to be maybe at the Ravens at 99 close to their graduation Marcus Lamb might be going to having Edgar Post twin brother as per state for the uh, for the Ravens and basically more than because Edgar Post twin brother at the Ravens. So the scenario that I'm looking right now. So definitely, while and definitely for the same the twin brother of Edgar Allan Poe having son the Ravens and basically being the center of attention and everything is the scenario that I'm looking. So after while I'm different while the Ravens will be still going on I'm different in between I'm different for the plan of Edgar Allan Poe and which I'm looking Edgar Allan Poe and I'm during that point Edgar Allan Poe was dancing with wheels, while Motisha might be dancing with like Edgar Allan Poe's like twin brothers, like the Sinner, like so that game was like after a while like and the like attack the Raven like Edgar Allan Poe like really some like calling his like twin brother towards like Edgar Allan Poe and basically telling like twin brother that Edgar Allan Poe has like something to tell him and basically that way like Edgar Allan Poe and his like twin brother would be like heading out of like the Ravens and so like Edgar Allan Poe like telling his like twin brother that like he will like like he just has to like say one thing and basically that to let him uh, that let him back to like the arrange right away to get him clients like Edgar Allan Poe like to his like twin brother and then undoubtedly protect for like most likely this like training of like Edgar Allan Poe like telling like twin brother that like we can't have this like twin brother like graduate from that no not without even being like intermediate at like dual and basically that way like Edgar Allan Poe like really manipulating and forcing this like twin brother while like the Ravens will be having to like still have that a brief duet with like Edgar Allan Poe. And that way, like according to my the rest time the according to my friends like that way Edgar Allan Poe finishingly taking out his like twin brother. And then like dreams and then like after dreams and Edgar Allan Poe like plan like Edgar Allan Poe hiding like the body of like the twin brother like close to that exact building, close to like the building of the Korean that scenario that I was over. So that they are discovering like then hampir like Edgar and dia hampir like even though Edgar Allan Poe confident friends like Edgar Allan Poe might be having like a twin brother might have had like a twin brother back during his days as like a student at like Nevermore and that lead even while Edgar Allan Poe and his like twin brother might have look alike like understand like their hairstyle and like their dressing style might have been all the patterns or might have been individually in name of the brain. So like what Edgar Allan Poe might have done might have been like on that night of like the Ravens at like 1990 of like taking out the selections of the black it might have been Edgar Allan Poe that might have really changed up switched up his like whole get up to like basically like wearing like the sort of like Edgar Allan Poe's like twin brother and like putting on the exact hairstyle of like his like twin brother and basically that way Edgar Allan Poe might have that way with that absolute disguise that he might have disguised himself as his like twin brother and after like taking out Edgar secretly taking out Edgar Allan Poe's like twin brother, like Edgar Allan Poe, the like in the disguise of his like twin brother, like turning to like the Raven, was like the scenario that I'm going towards like Mephisto's like the scenario that I'm going. So like Edgar Allan Poe uh, and his like twin brothers, like they are the way they their voice might be also kind of like similar. So like the Liam is like Edgar Allan Poe might be good at like mainstream. So the Liam is like Edgar Allan Poe like possibly mimic like the voice and like the body language of like the second brother like the scenario that everything and Edgar Allan Poe telling Motisha that basically that like it's like boring it's getting boring at like the Raven and that like that's the head out will be along the line like Edgar Allan Poe will be telling Motisha to execute that final part of next year relationship plan to train Motisha. So definitely that way that to differing tracks at Terralempo might have brought Motisha to this like building close to like the building of Victor Ravens and like on facing like the top of like that building like Terralempo might have told Motisha that like that let's have a duel like this these would be fun like and we had Terralempo telling Motisha that like he doesn't want to like or like Edgar Allan Poe telling Motisha to let's train Edgar Allan Poe while Edgar Allan Poe will be pretending to be like train program son of like Motisha. Edgar Allan Poe telling Motisha to train him that he doesn't want to like graduate as like while not even being like an intermediate level at like 12 would be along the line because like the graduate for instance like the graduation might be so close by after like the 1990 range might have been like the situation so definitely that way like Motisha like and by then like the Ravens might be almost reaching its like final phase of like might be like the age of minimum. So like at that point like Motisha definitely agreeing and like Motisha would be training lad Edgar Allan Poe thinking it's like Edgar Allan Poe like in front of like and Edgar Allan Poe so putting that up so fake acting and Indian answer like is like not at all absolutely no skills at all at like level like a veteran brother. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at while Motisha would be while Motisha would be training Edgar Allan Poe like at that point I'm just saying like Edgar Allan Poe like quickly uh, like taking up uh, pouch or like a sack, and basically like from it like Garland and Poe like planted like onto like Morticia and Morticia soul onto like Morticia throats and Morticia soul, which like listen up that I'm looking and then so the thing for like Garland and Poe who like quickly run out of like the building and jump just like the scenario that I'm looking for. And definitely I'm looking like Garland and Poe definitely might be having like such powers which might be unique powers which might allow him to be able to like easily survive such jumps might be like definitely my brain. So definitely for like Edgar Allan Poe and Beans plan like and feeling like they might have planned in such a way that basically want like according to that plan one like Edgar Allan Poe while in like the presence of like Edgar Allan Poe's section for the people bringing the fish to that nearby building at that point for like Beans to accidentally and quickly bring that body of like Edgar Allan Poe's like pin robber to that exact spot where like according to the plan like Edgar Allan Poe after like plan to like uh, that's the blood that would be like planning on like jumping. It's like the scenario that I'm playing. So like that way like um, midway between like the dual uh not just training of like Edgar Allan Poe thinking like in brother in like the dual like Edgar Allan Poe like doing all this and like jumping and like definitely at that point like by the time Patricia would be like running after like Edgar Allan Poe and would be looking out of like the building at that point, I'm also trying that Mokisha having this absolute shock, like basically, like Edgar Allan Poe by then, like without landed, safely landed at might be totally running to like the bishop and hiding in like the forest close by, while like on the ground, it would be like the for like Edgar Allan Poe and these like will take plan to like frame Mokisha, like they might have put like the body of like the taken out in the of like Edgar Allan Poe and being straight away like the moment Motisha would be like looking out for like the building like at that point is that means straight away screaming as per like their plan and quickly like the all of that students that like the ravens that basically hearing screams and screams and like then all rushing to that location and like exactly at that point like Motisha will be coming out of like the building. So that the mention that most likely due to that in like the Ravens in like 1990 that the continuous prevention like Motisha's they feel not so much but like and then of course like then and like the end of the like also about that Motisha's like general never more like and like from that's the way of fight itself like and the like Thomas might have called it my main love was that Motisha might have been like the new president like Thomas might have uh, follow more research around and thus early might have like proposed to like notification like each and every time notification might have rejected. Almost might have been like the case definitely definitely that way that since like the situation the fundamental training might have been during like the 1990 items might have been like nearing their graduation and like basically even in like as like the rate for like the 1990 items like government might have asked movies and like movies might have different dogs might have been like the new over and so that way like and it's really sad and the point that Gomez might have not even showed up to that the Raven 1990 Ravens might have been like the Cleveland brand. So that way according to my direction like Mocha might have sort of falsely framed and like the culprit behind like the behind like the loss of like and those like spin brother might have been like the situation of the Cleveland brand. So with like everyone believing it's like Morticia's like the culprit. And I believe once like yeah like once like the sheriff might have showed up to like arrest like Morticia. At that point I'm definitely talking like at that point I'm definitely Thomas might have showed up and basically Thomas might have set that up with like that basically it wasn't mathematics that like it was definitely Thomas that had basically taken that was like Thomas might have died and so the sheriff that Thomas was actually possessed in that building just to like in that building and basically it was like Thomas that had basically taken out was like only waiting for a chance to like take out like General those like twin brother and basically since like like love notation basically since like Gomez might have died and basically it's like the like bond between like Notisha and General those twin brother might have been most likely that of like such great good friendship and not that of love might have been like great speculative friendship yet like Gomez might have like to like the sheriff that basically Mauricia and Gerald those that brother were in love and basically that the that like Gomez couldn't stand it so that at least Gomez who was like waiting for a chance to like Gabriel of Black Gabriel was twin brother actually did it and it was him and not Motica because like they are in love Motica has absolutely no need no reason to that to take out internal perception product might be along the lines of filtering, um, might be along the lines of filtering like Thomas might have like to that sort of and basically it was that Thomas was often that building while Thomas was like trying to like take out like internal impose like twin product and was like chasing internal impose like twin product at that building that at that point like internal impose twin product like basically was that while trying to like escape Thomas like was how like internal impose like twin product like uh, fell from the building and got taken off. Would be along the lines of the platform that might have said that absolutely like to like the sheriff that who might be like the current mayor of that Jericho. Who might have been a sheriff that instantly not favorite. But that way, like I'm looking at at that point, the sheriff might have arrested Thomas and released Thomas to that the court. Yet, like I'm looking at Thomas is like might have not uh, like the judge might have been convinced that Black Stones is life, and definitely that way like I'm looking like the evidence as well might have have that mismatch, and that way like and that way like the case might have gotten rejected, might have been what might have happened, and the court might have ordered like sort of say like as soon as possible like to find like the actual culprit. And like might have want like the sort of like and might have been what might have happened supplementary and since then like even though the sort of might have desperately like done desperately try to like find like the full culprit like and the sheriff might have not been able to and basically that way like might have been when like sheriff might have been forced to that assignment and like that way eventually the sheriff might have ended up becoming the mayor of Jericho might have been what might have happened to Stephanie might have been especially I'm still thinking about friends so that like that way that seeing like the extreme extent to which like Thomas was like selflessly upon the operation was going to was like selflessly and reluctantly uh, unreluctantly was like willing to like go to like protect and save Mafia like and like not having such a realization at that point like Mafia might have instantly fallen madly in love with Black Thomas and basically like soon after and then both might have got like this like suspicion surrounding Thomas and Mafia and like then both might have gotten expelled from that Nevermore and might have not graduated from Nevermore might have been what might have happened with being with and soon after they might have gotten expelled and like Nevermore like Mafia and Thomas might have married might have been what might have happened stepping up the campus. Yes, so that definitely I got the realization that I'm still going to study for to be most likely Morticia herself itself and not Thomas that might be that the descendant of Lantulia and definitely both Morticia as well as Thomas might have joined and entered Nevermore late. It's definitely might be like the case with Demon Brain. So that like by the time it goes like 99 like they might have been by being madly in love with each other, like they might have married each other. While they might have been studying at like another might have been like the executive produce the Demon Brain, like Thomas marrying into the Adam's family of like Locatia. Thomas might have changed his name to like Adam Stone. Thomas might have been what might have happened to the game of creation. This might be the reason for like why Thomas was like abstract in like the back in like 1990 like Thomas name being Adam Stone probably might have been a revolution. Might have like to like the sheriff, the bench sheriff as well as to like the court might have been like what might have happened to frame. So that's definitely going to be anything like an old thing like frame for this like the black that might have been like want to like see the split and like the state by Edgar Allan Poe might have been the that of like Edgar Allan Poe's like twin brother might have been like the case with him and yet like a different like one of might have countered that like false framing of like most likely by lying to the sheriff and to the court most likely by telling that like one of it was like Morticia by trying to like stop like as like it was bonus that was like chasing for like and attacking like Endron was like twin brother and like Morticia was like trying to like stop Domus and basically it was at that point that basically like the that had like talked to like I'm not sure might be along the lines like a different like Domus might have so that definitely was the reason right now is that this like by the time that the parents need to be forward like and looking like when space left brother uh would have seen innocently seen like only like the good side of like never know without like knowing like the chaos that can be that to me like definitely under the time by the time after like the parents sheet by the time that mostly as well as like would be about to leave was like Wednesday like from like and from like Wednesday from telling them that like basically he wants to join Nevermore. Just like the scenario that I was super different. And that way like I'm just that thing being adamant about wanting to like immediately being adamant about like wanting to like join Nevermore. And the like Wednesdays like the scenario that I was doing. And definitely I was wondering by now that could be that Wednesday that seems like it might be such an extremely hard time for like Wednesdays sort of at like the old school uh previous school might be like it is and definitely the students were like Wednesdays with their relief of like that things of like Wednesday might be making it such an it's good half time might be ensuring to like make it such an good half time for like when they brought up and like the previous school of Wednesday might be like the situation of like Wednesday for the definitely with friend so that they are like Wednesday brother while showing up for like that definitely when the Wednesday's brother already might be having that sort of like basically of like getting like parents to like agree to like basically by the time like the parents meet will be over like for him to be able to like get his parents to like agree to like let him join Nevermore. Might be along the lines already that this brother might be having like the plan and definitely I'm for like him being by the time like the parents meeting will be over like him being adamant about it and like when they knowing about like the range of fighting like in like Nevermore as well as like definitely by now like what it as well as like Gomez would be by now fully aware of that uh, would be it would be obvious for like extent of like danger and like that that Nevermore causes like yet like I'm totally putting like while definitely I'm the initially for like what is as well as Dom's telling like the product along with like when step telling that the product that is leads definitely not it's definitely won't work out and then like that like the product should like it's better for like when the product like stay at that whole but like even though they would be trying to like convince like once it was like trying like him being adamant about it and that point I'm the like thing showing up and basically thing most likely like giving that assurance to like Wednesday parents that like thing as will take care of it like to take care of like the effects of like the product would be along the lines like things would be given that assurance and something like at that and at that even at that point of view of the point to a certain extent even though like when you still totally putting like eventually motivate as well as like don't agree and basically even though Wednesday even at that point would definitely not out in like agreement and would be definitely worried that like but if the product is like stays at like more that will be too much of like an obstacle as well as like a burden because like let's say in like when it start to like uncover like the mysteries behind like never known and everything due to like let's say always having to like focus on like keeping like other protectors while and simultaneously having to like also gender like the investigation as well at the same time would be along the lines like Wednesday will be feeling is definitely going for it. Yet like I'm referring like solely due to like things like interference and the that exactly happening and basically like after the past meeting will be over like I'm like was plan of the staying at like never more it's like it's a scenario experiment and that way according to my particular impression right now I'm also putting for by share points is like it's ending up being that Eugene that will be ending up becoming that which will becoming like the dom mate of that principal product. There's like the scenario that I'm going to bring out then. Definitely my particular impression is to know definitely like it's exactly like the obsidian symbol like thing which like what is that had given to Wednesday, which affect the W and which definitely I think eventually the tools are like having a relevance once like Wednesday will be figuring out that what it's about like which of the thing will be most likely that those radiant symbols might be connected to that Wednesday's like listen house and be that with that while holding that end upwards that most likely Wednesday will be eventually uh once like Wednesday will be being able to like use this like her like vision powers at like will and basically at that point through like the obsidian symbol that white maybe holding that obsidian symbol with that and on the top like the taking of like two visions connected to like notification while like holding that obsidian symbol with like the doubling on the top like Wednesday being able to like see visions connected to like Wednesday uh, is like the scenario that I'm looking so definitely for Wednesday to like figure it out herself might be like the injured or like notice might have been like thinking of what they are while feeling given that or the feelings in birth like when they might be like ways also. So next it's according to them probably by the time like it like parent weekend would be over like and they would be leaving like on the preparing that for like Wednesday like process of definitely ending up that staying at like Nevermore and joining Nevermore like the scenario that I'm looking at. Definitely I'm looking like to that concern element connected to like the safety of like Wednesday for like for looking for like time maybe instead of like Notisha Gomez most likely to link some sort of like a unique different item to like maybe not Wednesday but to like maybe either to Wednesday or to like Wednesday's proper like so different like Jones most likely seeing some sort of like unique item uh intended to like eventually like help with like the protection of like and safety of like Wednesday's product. It's like still into cognizant of parameters of the so definitely my booking very interesting right now is definitely for like the enters like they have come up with like the most likely offering an advanced version of like the parent powers of like the entire maybe like the actual is definitely of them and we have to like for like the enters not like and like it could be like an extremely top priority for like the enters not that to like have Bianca graduate as like the top enemy student like never know. Might be like a case definitely one potential. For that to be such an extremely important and top priority for like the end of mother might be like a definitely the end of mother like to like even from there means to like make that happen and to like the end of like mother before even like doing some sort of like a unique item to seriously enhance like the siren powers of the end that's what we must render. So and that to give that item to like the end being like the sole reason for like the end mother even showing up for like the parent weekend. It's also the belief might be the case that minimum parent. So the belief by booking your intention right now is for like the scenario or like the one like the parent weekend would be ending and like this year like not the charity saying I don't want to be saying something that to like when spend for the like Motica maybe tracking Wednesday on the head and at that point like Motica having her vision. It's like the scenario that I'm looking for. So like when Steph Curry sees like her mother vision, uh, having a vision for like the first time, it's like only at that point it's like the scenario that I'm looking at. And never during like when mostly the vision powers being not vision drawing powers, but like it's like similar vision powers as that of like when Steph was like vision viewing powers, like my different version. So like I'm looking at that point, Morticia as well, like hinting about is like while witnessing the vision is like person out that I'm correct. So like at that point, like Wednesday don't be being shocked and basically Wednesday at that point would basically asking like Motisha actually like what Motisha saw. And at that point I was to bring like Motisha with like such an absolute white smile like saying farewell to like Wednesday. Hello and that basically goes as well that seeing Motisha's like facial extremely white smile of like a facial expression Gomez as well would be smiling. And basically they're both like leaving just like that like something out that I'm with all the price. So definitely I'm bring it quickly with like one since like one like Wednesday revealed like the range of that Wednesday has so far gone through like, after joining never more like this week since like Wednesday revealing that only song gave happiness to that happiness and to that and a sense of like satisfaction and please uh feeling for like Monisha as well as like Jonathan only protecting like Monisha like the vision that Monisha at that point might have seen from like Wednesday connecting to like Wednesday might be vision connecting not really connecting to like Wednesday but like it might be of like even more greater dangers like range of situations like awaiting Wednesday ahead and that being the reason for like the white smile of like Monisha before after like seeing like the vision is like in the scenario that I was delivering and on range. Yes, so like the minimum range right now is that like in like the mind narrative of the book, like no teacher basic alone might be stacked with like all the success of that no teacher during phases like student and like never more like that more space alone might be filled with like more success in like tests as well as methods like exams or like performances like also the competition but like never more might have been like the case and definitely teams might be like as like the principal of like and more academy teams might be required to like basically to keep to have all of like the yearbooks like be placed at like the principal's office according to maybe some protocol might be like the case of trend. So definitely teams might have at least seen that basically in like the parents weekend like definitely would be like definitely to remind Vince of how much Motisha excel more than things during uh, their days as students are never more basically Motisha in front of Vince would be while showing up for the parents weekend would be taking that yearbook and basically would be going through Motisha's face and basically talking about all those competitions and will be along the lines and that we are reminding James of that past success of Notisha, which Greens might be struggling to forget about, even though the person might be creative memorization. This might be the reason for Greens pairing solely the page of Notisha hero from 1991 year to uh, exactly before the parents weekend. Might be the actual preparation is definitely by the trend. It's the minimum trend right now is for two possibilities, either Notisha knowing Kimbot far too well, all the way back since the days when Natasha and Gomez and James and Kimbot all might have been students at more at that point Kimbot might have been more proposed junior and yet Kimbot might have had a way of speaking which might have always succeeded in irritating Natasha might have been the days technical friends. So the possibility of Natasha getting angry, choosing her calm, calmness and basically aggressively acting towards what might be along the lines of basically Monica might be having that fear. It's kind of being the reason for the not wanting to the meeting with Kimbo. So one topic that I'm referring. And so that way when the consideration while Moksha might Kimbo to a certain extent Gomez might know know much about Kimbo might be the case cover of the possibility that company about the consideration about different company as per the type of date is secret plan between which Simbot might along with wings might not be prepared for parent family, which might be definitely just meeting with Simbot where Simbot might not be planned to do her absolute maximum to to exactly question exactly where and of distance exactly where it makes both Roman as well as where the possibility of it making Romans as well as Patricia insecure and triggering them to trigger them would be the sword in Kimbo might be preparing for during the meeting of Patricia and Gomez with Kimbo to the scenario that I'm preparing. So I'm preparing the meeting with important preparing Wednesday. By now, since Wednesday, it's used to keyboard I'm Wednesday, not at all remaining calm and not at all losing her hold, but I'm more losing her hold. So the bring Gomez as well, maintaining this calmness, but not totally like getting triggered by keyboards busting times losing her cool and not shouting at keyboard and basically at that point keyboard would be please because according to keyboard and keyboard would have got uh, uh, it might be to only create that record that basically like that Wednesday and Adam's family or have basically even to the person maintains has that aggressiveness towards aggressive behavior towards the to create such records through such triggering tactics might be definitely important in this plan for that eventual consumer plan for that eventual for accusation against vendors of the family which they might be totally planning. Definitely my opinion. So according to my impression that green skin brought up to the consumer might be siblings and different that come to the free plan widely and taking that absolute and total advantage of the situation of Mopika as well as going to present that Nevermore and Jericho to totally a different before parents we can end a different right before the very night before the parents we can end for there to be two victims contrary to that attack of even after that and of them to bring it would be a team of import these something that will be the culprit behind that attack and the Liam was spread at that point sure Galpin definitely straight away suspecting uh like the culprit would be most likely Thomas of the minimum champion and that they have to since the usual pattern the since definitely uh according to like James Kimball and Tony plan like them consciously that's straying away from like the usual pattern of like one victim per week. I think that basically changing that to like all of a sudden like two victims on this week, like exactly while like not official but like it's like never more as well as like very good. It's like it's another that and that way like sure can like straight away assuming that basically it's like definitely might be like the doctor of like Gomez is the police might experience. So like that way like sure girl can like probably forbidding Gomez from being able to like leave from like never know and basically yes, like unfairly talking for like the team of like inboard founding as well as teams to like really mess up because like roughly understanding that fundamentally like the case of all of their previous attacks like for the friend that they might always like council might always be step on to the strategy maybe always ensuring to like get rid of all like the evidence connected to like some of the excess for like the it might be that just like the attack not on like the victims alone that might be present like all the remaining evidence of like the monster that might be connected to like the monster like all the other evidence like connected to like the monster might be carefully and precisely might be getting uh, erased away by counters like unique powers might be like the actual justification in the case of like all the previous attacks on like the victims in like process like now not might be like a human prevention but like I'm just like a condiment prevention once like before like one of the show leading like and the previous night like definitely there's like upon the like being important concept like the mystic plan like them attacking two two targets and basically that way two victims happening and basically they are like a different like concept by cleaning up like evidence like footage messing up and basically just helping finding like a hairspray of from like the crime site like scenario that I'm looking for different and the sure helping will be like straight away that taking a DNA test um uh, between that hairspray as well as like the DNA of like form of like taking from that helping that taking that DNA test and so different helping at that point would be feeling absolutely or confident that basically definitely the DNA test would be a match and finally like Galpin will be able to like bring Thomas down with along the lines that Galpin will be feeling that absolute or confident but like I'm just bring that one like the result will be in that showing up like I'm just bring that the DNA test not ending up becoming a match. This is like the scenario that I'm doing and I'm still thinking about prevention even like in the case of like Wednesday DNA test of like the like the blood sample as well as like the plot of like the monster like and like that DNA test as well not match it with like the scenario that I was in. So luckily I'm the sure at that point doing like the DNA test of like the plot of like the monster as well as like that hairspray. And then the difference that DNA test matching with like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like definitely I'm looking like helping at that point only feeling absolutely frustrated like the scenario that I'm looking and at that point with like a smile like I'm looking like uh, like asking Galvin if that he can leave now like the scenario and like with like a smile like almost along with like lead them now like doing the scenario that I'm looking at the information. Okay, so like the Lehman pre-adoption right now that they basically might be definitely on hit according to that Lean and like inboard and some of the collective plan it might be definitely something that might have to figure out like the takeout of like the lawsuit for the might already it might be like that the preparation for Lehman and like something might have executed it in such a way that basically once like Galpin will be showing up to like investigate the crime scene at that point for like Galpin to be able to like figure out that basically it wasn't a scenario where like Reggie took himself out, but like it was like actually done by like a criminal who after like taking out that Reggie attempted to like basically like make it seem as if like make it appear as if like Reggie took himself out like to make it possible for like while executing like the takeout of that Reggie like according to plan and according to the plan might have ensured to like make it possible for like helping to like figure that much out and so that like basically with like bonuses like for like helping to like straight away so pretty bonus might be in the plan of like Kimbot that team as well as something might be the case especially non friendly. Okay, so let's definitely find the scenery impression right now that like we might have the totally right about like their case having a cut on like notation and like basically a bonus have put up like their case that fighting having fought for like more reason like the past. Like that path might be like actually the claim and private, and also GarrettGates might be unlike like the Tyler and Favorite situation like for like let's say like I'm putting in the case of the GarrettGates might have been a student of like November. Exactly like those might have been like the case certainly not intelligent. And also like GarrettGates might also have had like a twin brother that exactly identically to like twin brother. And like that twin brother of GarrettGates might have been secretly allied to it like the villain plans of like Edgar Allan Poe as well as like we like back then we are student based but like never more to like bring down what we said might have been like the case with me might have been reimbursed. So like according to my particular reimbursement like the individual that jumps from like the building back in like the 1990 freedoms might have definitely been Garrett Gates like and become twins of the who might have been also like a student of like more academy and who might be still alive even to like the person's definitely not reimbursed and definitely it might have been either James or like Edgar Allan Poe or like Garrett like twin brother it might be one among these three that might have taken an activity might have taken up gas with certainly might have very influential right now. So that's definitely not the attention right now, especially for again that to like to like escape from or like I'm looking at the camera much that we it created a deciding to like escape before like the end of like the weekend with like the scenario that happened. So like Bianca in like the middle of the night like and so looking at Bianca running off from that mom on her phone with like the scenario that happened with the thing and on that very night, like I'm looking like my share point to like Bianca will be running off through like the forest, and uh, at that point, like Bianca will be running into that the monster, while like the monster will be like targeting and attacking its like next victim. Like so before that, at that point, like Bianca will be by share point to running into like the monster, like the scenario that I'm going to talk about. So at that point, I'm different like the monster like seeing Bianca and like he'll be the monster like straight with charging towards like Bianca to attack Bianca like the scenario that I'm in. So like at that point, I'm definitely trying like Bianca using her fire and powers and basically controlling like the monster like and stopping like the monster from landing its attack on Bianca like just using her siren powers like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like I'm looking at Bianca's like siren powers like I'm looking at Bianca at that point that would be putting in all of Bianca's effort into like Bianca's siren powers that like Bianca surpassing Bianca's own breaking Bianca's own limits of like Bianca's like siren powers at that point it's like and the siren flowers being so extremely intense that like I'm thinking like that causing like the transform state of like the monster to come undone like the scenario pyramid. So like the monster like turning back to like human form at that point in front of Bianca's like scenario that I'm looking at. At that point I'm thinking like Bianca should be absolutely shocked because like at that point that like the scenario that I'm looking. So like at that point like the monster will be while turning back to its like human form will be either turning into important or like the most like them needing more to be less likely is like looking out of that so like Bianca at that point being absolutely shocked and at that point itself like I'm looking like Bianca passing out like the scenario that I'm looking and that definitely really most like improving like the unique powers of like Thornhill while Thornhill would have most likely sneaked up on like Bianca while in like Thornhill's like grasp of something and like using like Thornhill's like unique powers like I'm looking at like how Wednesday passes out after like the after like the attack on like the Royal like how Wednesday after like TNT as well, which might have been well like due to like the actions of like Town Hill might be the case the Remsen that is putting over like in the similar manner like I'm putting Town Hill most likely just the way like because in TNT as well at that point like like the scenario that I'm putting so definitely like TNT while attempting to like escape and run off on the phone, like I'm just like all this happening to like Bianca and definitely like once like Bianca will be getting back to consciousness like at that point like Bianca picking up at like the like at in such an impressive kind of like state at like some whole building uh in an impressive kind of state and like the person at that point that will be right next to like Bianca who will be also in that impressive kind of like similar impressive kind of state would be about this like thing of scenario that I'm so like in like the four surrounding like November and specifically my friends and what there to be some secret building like stealthy secret building and that deep in like the four surrounding November and where like a ruin might be totally alive and like might be in that extremely type kind of flexibility. But that like ruin might not be able to like even pre using like 10 minutes like scenario that I'm discussing. So like the as well, like while originating back consciousness would be put in that kind of state besides or in that project is like in scenario that I'm looking over and that totally presenting any that the team of that being bought as well as Thornhill getting into like serious trouble, kind of like a situation. Just like the scenario that I'm thinking, definitely because of like how badly Bianca like mother gone Bianca like definitely like all of a sudden like the news about like Bianca going missing like spreading throughout like now not so definitely I'm whispering like the siren mother of like Bianca definitely like in an enraged manner will be straight away walking up towards like Dean and will be questioning things as for like basically where first like Dean got like question that I'm able to. So definitely I'm like means like so her many creative ways of like interacting like and like things like full harassment just to like make all sorts of excuse and false hopes that like being was like without which great delay would be definitely ensuring to that fine Bianca, but like I'm different definitely like Bianca's mother not buying that at all. It's like the scenario that I'm different. So like Bianca's mother like that way, like deciding not to like come back and it means that like Bianca's mother like buying an apartment at like Jericho and basically deciding to stay at like Jericho and only leave after like finding and taking Bianca with her. It's like doing just another challenge. So like that way, like I'm just like the end of mother like not leading after like the current visit and eventually ending up staying at like Jericho's like Stevenson and would be doing her own investigation as to like trying to like find out and spying on things and trying to like find out find Bianca is like Stevenson cannot that I'm looking for while Wings on the other hand will be like creating like the next priority along with like uh, like keyboard as well as like him to like basically silence like Bianca's mother by taking her out as like the next target before Bianca's mother like cause like the situation to get worse and just some trouble will be along the lines of the like the team of like James Thornhill after the what will be ending up in such the situation essentially like during in our parameter of the okay, so like me, my Victorian question right now is that like the more than which that was expected from that currency might have been anything more with the even so definitely while that the foreign sector right now will be checking like terrain like and like them finding like fresh fingerprint from like that empty more it's like the scenario that I'm different. So like I'm just bringing like at that point for like the foreign sector that is into that the thing about like the age of like the owner of like the fingerprint as well as that is being triggered and basically the fingerprint are proven from a few days back. This much detail on to the point like the after like the like teams like analysis like and revealing to Galpin and I'm just bring like me with like this much information like and like the top person that will be coming into Galpin might be definitely that of like Wednesday like the scenario that I was about to so like they must like Galpin straight away doing a fingerprint match with like match test with like Wednesday and like the fingerprint matching with like the scenario that I was have. Definitely at that point I'm still differing like the Galpin to be the extreme disappointed of Black Wednesday. As to like why Wednesday was even entered into like the more and like Wednesday I'm differing like straight away telling Galpin about like the reason as to like as part of her investigation and everything. But still, I'm afraid like the suspicion within like Galpin will be that she's being raising the towards Black Wednesday, and basically like the possibility of Black Wednesday having something to do with the loss of like operating. It would be along the lines of totally cutting that Galpin who seems that screams of the from that one out towards Black Wednesday like the and maybe like feet and taking it like see this to like from that point on to like see sneak fight on like Wednesday whenever Wednesday steps out of like now reflecting the scenario that I'm considering on brain. Okay, so like definitely like very interesting right now certainly for like yeah into like right now so straight away out like going straight to like people like never like scenario that I'm about to bring and definitely delivering that it looks like the weekend like I'm delivering that maybe for my real on Monday might be the case definitely so like until then like I'm delivering for like Alvin having like the task of like basically keeping like that recent evidence of like the safe that Galvin so different by now might be aware that like about like the friendship between like Wednesday and Tyler definitely might be the case that me correct. So like definitely I'm different like definitely with that absolute with that arrangement to like totally to bring down like so much like I'm Galvin even keeping like the personal information of like in getting the letter of that Reggie a secret from even his son Tyler like was another and Galvin like I'm so secretly storing that letter safely at like and locking that letter somewhere within like Galvin like the that I'm looking and definitely I'm looking like uh, for like more fish straight away like and definitely I'm looking at that point like so the preparing Gomez to most likely spend like the weekend the rest of the weekend at like the station local like the scenario that I'm in an interesting kind of state like the scenario that I'm suggesting and definitely I'm looking like more fish to be extremely sad and like Wednesday on the other hand will be totally feelings of the mindset as of like it's like as along the lines as of like Gomez has to like say if for like the crimes would be along the lines like Wednesday of the mindset Wednesday would be while Motisha who like totally aware that what like down innocent would be feeling since that end up for like Motisha straight away making some move and definitely Motisha straight away you'll be giving the order to like the hand thing to like definitely Patricia will be hearing all this definitely like Galvin might be definitely hiding like crucial evidence of like the like at like Galvin somewhere within like Galvin so from the lines like Patricia would be absolutely confident about so like definitely I'm different also Sunday night like I'm totally putting like according to like Patricia's like slant like I'm putting like thing straight away into the rating into the rating to like Galvin's like home and definitely I'm putting like the key to like that secret lock where like the letter to be might be under like yeah I'm totally putting maybe Galvin keeping it under right under like Galvin's like pillow in which like Galton will be sleeping. Like looking after that I'm looking over. Yet like I'm doing things of that atmosphere, like feeling that key and opening that gate or like that lock and basically will be like thing I'm totally according to like most of the plan like I'm like things most likely but that atmosphere like destroying that level and so like one of the different like the hands thing to be a really good and still good the like the scenario that I make about it and that like the thing easily like creating or creating a like in like the very exact frame handwriting as that of that documentation and like in that letter like I'm just like thing most likely adding in like the information that basically uh as for like the confession of like Dr. Reggie that basically about like him like having fake like the coronation and actually it wasn't like Thomas that had basically committed like the crime of like involving like Garrett would be along the lines of the different like things changing up and writing that letter. A new letter in like the very exact handwriting as that of like Dr. Reggie, like the scenario that I'm so like definitely I'm just for like sure Galvin like most likely facing that letter within an envelope within that safe like micrograms. So like definitely I like the next Monday morning like I'm delivering getting like in an excited manner like definitely to bring down Thomas because that we might be able to like bring down Thomas even definitely be able to like bring down Thomas like and like getting and the spring like producing Thomas at like the core and the spring like Galvin producing like the envelope as like the evidence at like the fourth and the spring like once like the judge could be reading like the contents of like that letter like at that point I'm so different like the judge staring at like Galvin and definitely I'm looking like the judge reading that content of like the letter. So like as for like the content of like the letter like I'm looking like the phone the judge reading it and basically straight away declaring like and at that point like while like the judge will be reading it like I'm looking like uh for like Galvin to be absolutely shocked and like Galvin like straight away telling like the judge that like that's not like the content of the letter and everything. But like I'm thinking that the judge at that point giving that serious stare to like Galvin, which will be silencing Galvin straight away like with another judge and the judge declaring like uh, at that point, like after reading the content of the letter, like after like the content of the letter, like the judge declaring Thomas as like absolutely innocent in like the current case involving like involving Garrett from that I think like the idea of that with the of the lines of it bring like the scenario to be like where like the judge would be declaring like the scenario that that way like I'm bring uh like definitely like the hopes of like Galvin or backfiring on Galvin is like scenario that I'm putting and definitely I'm looking at that point. I thought like I'm putting that I don't know like smiling at like Galvin like the scenario and like an extremely frustrated that like the scenario that I'm putting and the brain and definitely and that on that very Sunday night, like a documentation on that very Sunday night, like after like thing would have for example, like this left page letter, like the handwriting of laptop already, like as like thing will be on the way, like that we leave the like the of like that, like at that point I was almost like the sign up, like just by sheer points of like waking up regularly at that point and like kind of like just barely seeing like things leaving from that kind of like scenario that I'm so like the next morning when Tyler will be finding out about all this like and like Tyler like would be like revealing to like Wednesday about like seeing things on like at like Tyler's home like the previous night. It's like my very impression. So like until that point I was thinking like Wednesday until that point will be after like the judge would be declaring with like verdict like until the point like Wednesday so you think that absolute good for the things of the wrong and it Wednesday like even apologizing like to Gomez is like the scenario that I'm about it. And definitely, I'm sorry, it would be for to be after that without stating it that like Tyler would be like without realizing like Tyler would be telling Wednesday uh, about like seeing things like the previous night at like Tyler's home, like the scenario that happened. So like at that point, I was from like Wednesday, like coming down to like the realization as to like what might have happened with like the left and like might have been the place things was that but judge like declare like like government like in the legal optimism so different like Wednesday at that point so like instantly would be feeling and like the game is looking like Wednesday straight away like with that absolutely just face like will be walking up straight back towards like Gomez and for different like Wednesday like taking back telling Gomez that like she's taking back that apology and basically Wednesday most likely sharing and like notice as well and saying as well that was an artist that I'm looking and then comes out the point for like thing to like having to like face the struggles to like makes me for a while to like even again back like the friendship that Wednesday has from like thing is like in the scenario that I'm looking and at that point, like the continuous friends and so different for like for also most likely maybe given punishment to like social for like firstly arresting as well as like like producing like one of two like so and that as like wasting for time as well as like for like creating all that disturbance to like bonus and everything that so collectively like giving the punishment to like children as well. It's also like an angel of scenario that I'm looking at the scenario frame. So this will get definitely my friends right now that I'm sitting on those techniques or like yeah, she might have definitely have like an identical twin brother. And so definitely I'm looking at that the actual here right now my friends is that like that would because might be like yeah, kid might be still alive, definitely my friend. So like it might have been gap that might have jumped from like that building and that who might have since the Bible because of like electronic house might have been like pretty definitely and like and gap gift might be a realistic gap who might be secretly might have been allied to that games as well as Edgar Allan Poe and it might have been gap trapped to that frame Gomez frame Morticia might have been like the games the minimum frame. So like according to my understanding like it might be Gareth Gates like identical in product that might have got taken out by like the villains of Black Cat it might be like the case to like solely to like falsely frame and bring down Motisha might have been what might have happened and like this might be something that like I'm like after like Thomas might have been like Dom's case because rejected like Dom's case in the person was like I'm thinking might be after that like I'm saying like Motisha might have had this like vision and vision of like gas cave like lost and basically Motisha vision might have feel like the truth of like basically actual gas case like basically taking out taking out like gas case like identical twin brother supplement and definitely I'm whispering that gas case like identical twin brother might be a genuinely a good person might have been like a case of human friend I suppose that we so at present like I'm putting gas case might be stealthy might be living under like the false identity of like gas case like twin brother while like in like the grave of like GarrettGates that it might be GarrettGates like twin brothers like that might have been that they might have already definitely the actual like the situation definitely mentioned. This might be the reason for like basically like Gomez and Patricia when not believing that like they tell the truth and this might be the truth that they might want to like they would be most likely them believing that like they tell that they like once they don't believe it like it might be the truth that like yeah it like saved the life and it was like and became brother that that is like taken out in like might be like that the reputation of minimum preemption. So definitely like this might be the reason as well as for like Motisha in an orthodox manner like basically like destroying like the rose like and not placing the rose at like the gravestone of like Gareth Gates because like it definitely might not be like the gravestone of the Gareth Gates and we like seeing the name Gareth Gates might have triggered like not so much because of like in being such a villainous character still it's like uh, so there's some like the whole identity of like identity twin brother after it having elected the budget taken off villainously taken off this like and the twin brother and might be like today's company might put injury I'm pretty sure by that. So like short like maybe putting this where like in that different of like might have been from that building close to that the craving like it might have been gap kid that might have jumped out of that building and using his like unique powers like he might have in that safely landed and might have lifted up himself and at that point like it might have been like the body of like gap kid like twins for the twins like definitely gap kid like even before soon before that like a bit before that might have gap kid himself might have been estimated much like uh, that form of like that is like twin product that like like the Edgar and Go might have been placed it on that exact point to which like gasket jump might have been like so that like by the time like it might have been more picture that might have naturally might have and look from like the top of like that building and might have naturally might have seen like what appears to be like gasket like body on the floor. When naturally it might have been cascade, like the body cascade twin brothers definitely might be the case sibling on and might be solely due to lack Wednesday lack imagining lack is the lack the crime of lack Romans that might be the reason for lack in lack the meaning of lack so like basically uh like it being uh it being like one of that like basically looking from like the of affectability and seeing that the body uh gascade of like what Wednesday releases like that it might be Wednesday's version of like that crime scene that like Wednesday scene which might definitely not probably what might have actually happened. It's definitely not the case. And that way for like things to like a right like move like which in an extremely convincing way with like the very exact handwriting of that of like the law through this like the doctor makes that like confession where like the doctor uh, like like feeling guilty or like basically of like that like about like Thomas of like arrest and basically arrest back then and like the suspicion involving Thomas and we knew that like Thomas is probably that the doctor had fake like the confirmation report and basically like Thomas like completely innocent would to the extent like on the like thing as per like on space plan like rewriting that letter and placing it within like that envelope in which like then you're placing the new letter within that envelope in which kind of one like old letter like scenario that I was in. So that like that way of the word like that the that's the respect that we like outcomes so different things that so once the evidence will be produced before like the judge like and like the judge totally at that point like definitely declaring like Roman as like innocent. It's like the scenario that I'm looking and definitely the judge still deferring like also asking Roman about like and definitely I was looking like sort of Galpin at that point like even telling about like the confession that of like Thomas as well as Thomas identifying like the report of like Thomas identifying like the paper but like I'm also like at that point, like the judge will be like asking that to like the sheriff and where is it, and like at that point, like the sheriff like absolutely like having absolutely no answer to that like the scenario that I'm in because like it being exactly being like the very first person to like to witness like the crime of involving like GarrettGates might definitely not all the sheer concept that of definitely might be very important and definitely so like that it might have been a fault trap set for like motivator might be like the actual representations definitely might be great and GarrettGates might be still alive definitely might be very mentioned that video on this. Okay, so like definitely might be very mentioned right now is that like one of my have not at all expected that him to get arrested by showing up to like the bad video. Might be like actual representation definitely but like one like Galvin after like Gomez like at that point I'm like Gomez might have decided to like fight back and but it might be a game like a strategical game that like Gomez might have figured in his mind that like Gomez might be playing currently which might be like the stories that Gomez the confession story that Gomez that to like Wednesday like to make it it might be totally alive and like, need to make that like a confession story of that Gomez just like Gomez told to like Wednesday probably convicting for Wednesday like solely to not for that alone that Thomas might have written like the consciously written like the confession that and even identified like the saver in front of for like sort of Galvin might be like something that Gomez might have contributed on as part of like Gomez strategy solely to like make the thing make the story that Gomez felt to Wednesday seem that much extremely convincing for like Wednesday and that might be like the only strategy that like Gomez might be believing that he needs to for like so Wednesday to put in that effort and bring in that effort to the extent of like the judge this time like declaring Gomez as like absolutely innocent of like the crime connecting to like that case is definitely my different to that much extent of like comparison for the parting like Gomez might be placing on Wednesday's definitely my friend. So that just like the convincing part alone is that like for Wednesday to feel that like Gomez is like innocent alone might have been like the only strategy for like Gomez and like the rest like Gomez might have been confident that like Wednesday will take care of the rest. Definitely my friend. So like so different for the such accusation happen and definitely I'm different like Wednesday like the church now revealing about like going to confession letter as well as like Thomas identifying like the saber like don't interesting for like Wednesday from this point on like the only believing like Wednesday right now suddenly failing at like convincing like the church that like Thomas is like innocent so like I'm like Wednesday deciding like thing take things to her own hand like scenario that I'm different and definitely I'm like Wednesday along with like giving the order to like thing and basically with like Wednesday plan like thing totally integrated into like the sheriff where like I'm the friend of like the or like sort of like the attorney where like maybe not just like confession letter of like Gomez as well as like the report about like Gomez identifying like the favor alone but maybe also like the confession letter uh of the doctor as well might be discussing even strange. So definitely I'm different like that way definitely the scenario that I'm thinking for like think help like integrating more technique to that attorneys and basically like or like the exact location where like I don't need to be placing all the like evidence and definitely things I'm so different that most likely when failing things to like suddenly destroy like the confession letter of like trauma and basically to like totally destroy also like the letter of like the confession letter of like the friend create like it is so that definitely my book is interesting help us that like almost maybe right now totally lying to like Wednesday for like almost version like the story of that how Gates got taken by God of definitely mentioned because like the actual truth might be like really like exactly like Gomez said like and what he said like it might be extremely hard for like Wednesday to like believe that like Gates has like kind of exactly like identification problem and that Gates uh was like still alive might be along the line like I'm sorry, like right, the person that the government might be probably fearing and this might be the reason for like to have that against it even though like the government and some of the Monteja might be aware of like the actual truth like which might be the case definitely not very much so not like it's solely through like not just because I don't like them realizing that absolute truth yet like I'm different like at present like government like a priority might be to like have Wednesday help out with like Monteja to like free Thomas and like to make that happen and be possible like and like it might be an absolute life of like Gomez's version of like the believable of what Gomez believes will be believable and digestible for like Wednesday as like a story for like Wednesday to like feel sorry for and feel that it like father like innocent and for like Wednesday to like that they can notice them and together for them to like free um somehow manage to like free to almost like might be a light of a story that like right now uh have told Wednesday might be like actually definitely reaching something okay. And also preparing for like the hand things to get the very strong strategy according to for like Wednesday orders like I'm looking like the hand thing like even pushing like the saber like the crucial evidence of like the saber I'm talking about like saying pushing it into like a metallic sword is like physical and that way destroying that evidence as well like scenario that I'm thinking about the